So we can remind ourselves what we had discussed, starting with the first question. Very first, who can define for us that term? Hello, we had revised this so we can brush over just to remind ourselves as we progress so that we get to wherever we are. So who is defining for us the money market? Rebecca, you were present in last class. You can remind us. Who is assisting us to define that money market? Rebecca, you can assist?
Yes. So we said the money market is
Go ahead, money market.
where the lenders and borrowers meet.
It's not complete. Continue.
I don't remember everything.
Okay, lend and borrow meets for short. Okay, they exchange money for short term. If short and short term means within a period of 1 year. So you can go to borrow money or you can go to lend money, but for a period of 1 year. So that's what we refer as a money market. If you are lending or borrowing for a longer period, longer than 1 year, we refer to that as capital markets. Capital market. You can, someone can define for us payback period. Who can define for us payback period?
I think it's just me who is in class.
Yeah, so we can just do with you. Define for us.
The payback period is the period at which the investment is able to make return of the invested amount.
Yeah, that's the longest it will take for the company to recoup their initial investment, the longest it will take for a company to recoup the initial investment. Then interest rates. Interest rate. Interest rate is the cost that a borrower is charged for getting a debt facility or getting a loan or borrowing money. That's the cost that you are charged. Flexible budget. You can try define flexible budget.
This is the budget that is not fixed, so it can allow it can allow an adjustment, be it an increase.
Yeah, it's a budget that accommodates adjustments either upwards or downwards. So whatever you have made, the provision you've made allows some room for adjustments. Time value for money. Time value for money. Can try time value for money.
It's the strength of a currency at a specific time. For example, the money that one has at this time is equivalent to the money that you can
Yeah,
get.
it's a time value of money is the decline of value of money over a period of time. That is, the longer the period, also the value of money keep declining. Hopefully there's no one who is stuck, who is trying to log in. So we go, describe 6 factors which influence the price charged by a supplier. So can you mention some of the factors that you remember of that?
We said the volume of the items.
Yeah.
The volume of items.
Yes.
The many the items, the lower the price. There's also
Yeah.
season. There's off season and
On
when
season.
it's off season, it's expensive compared to when it's on season. There's also transport. If
Yeah.
a commodity requires a special kind of transportation means like refrigeration and all that, so more money needed charged.
Okay, so you still remember them plus others. Huh? So can try distinguish between revenue expenditure and capital expenditure.
Revenue expenditure, this is the daily operations cost incurred by the organization. It's also like the salaries, paying salaries. It's also a form of income because if you paying the staff means that you also earn from the organization and from their services. And the capital expenditure, this is the
Yeah.
expenditure that is long term, like land or machines
Yeah, sure.
for a long
So
time
we
period
said
of
that for revenue expenditure, these are expenses for normal operation of the business of where you expect to get returns, immediate returns. But with the capital expenditure, you are investing in long-term investment, like a fixed assets. If you are buying fixed assets, that's a capital expenditure. So we can look at part B. M-Payment has emerged as one of the platforms where goods are bought and sold bypassing the traditional market setup. Explain 3 issues that need to be considered in the development of legal framework to overcome the challenges. You can mention 1 or 2.
One was transaction cost, the higher cost of transacting using mobile payment.
Mhm. But remember, because the question is asking about legal framework.
Okay.
So when you talk, yes, you tell us what can be done in law. Legal framework, that means what can be done within the law.
A law, regulatory law
Mm.
should be put in place to regulate the amount, like putting a certain amount of transaction cost that should be charged.
Yeah, we can have law that controls the transaction costs. Uh-huh. Is there another you remember?
Wrong transactions.
Mm-hmm.
We said there's anti-banking law. Like, is it anti-banking or what is that?
Anti-money laundering.
Yeah, is that
Anti.
what, like when you are carrying out, you are sending money to a wrong person?
Yeah.
Does that
Uh-huh.
have like the anti-laundering money,
Yeah.
anti-money laundering?
We can have money laundering laws so that in case somebody has sent to wrong number, the recipient has to reverse or he'll face the consequences of the law. So in that case, it will protect the consumer. Mm. So we can move on to the next supply chain. Explain 3 costs associated with the inventory. Can you mention those costs?
There was holding cost.
Yes, holding costs.
There's also storage cost.
Uh-huh. Warehouse. That's warehouse.
Warehouse. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, warehouse cost.
Yeah.
Then holding was also the same as transporting cost.
Oh, holding. Okay. Holding is more or less like warehouse cost, where
Okay.
it has how we get the commodities in our store. Or for instance, once you have bought items, we'll have to offload from trucks. That's part of holding. Then we'll have storage. So when those goods are within the store, there's a cost we incur. We'll get a storekeeper who maintains that. Yeah.
So is
So
that 1.3? That
yeah.
is still warehousing, still the same as holding, still the same as storage.
Yes. But now when you mention them, you can give different explanation. If you are mentioning both of them, you can give different explanations. For instance, when you are mentioning holding cost, you can talk of how goods are stored. For instance, if our goods have gotten to our store, we need to maintain a stock ledger and all that. So there's a cost that is associated with that stock ledger. And then when you're talking about warehouse, just warehouse cost, you can talk of the offloading costs. When you have gotten items, we have to offload them to our store. Then when those goods are also getting from our store, we'll have to get the loading cost to load to trucks so that they can be transferred from the store. And then we will still have the maintenance, store maintenance. So within the store, we have to maintain or we have to maintain how we okay, we have to maintain the way we organize or we arrange our goods within our store. And then we also have specialized goods which require special storage facility, like those which require refrigeration. So in that case, we'll incur another cost for refrigeration. We have those which require open air. So in that case, they will also have to make those provisions. We have goods that will require to be dried, like cereals. So we'll also have to incur cost for drying them to the required humidity level before we can store them. So you can mention some of those with the plus others.
There was
Hmm.
handling. Handling, is it the same as transporting also?
Yeah,
But
part of handling is also transporting.
and then there was okay, I think it was gone.
Yeah.
Oh, transit, the same as that on transit goods.
Transit is the transport.
Okay,
Yeah, transit is transport, part of the costs.
okay.
Hmm.
So these are
Then
two different
we still
handling.
have other cost. We have ordering cost. When you make an order, there's a cost associated with that.
Yeah.
So we can move to the next. The amortization, that one we did the calculation. See?
Yeah.
Mm.
There's something I saw, although I have not carried my book with me.
Yeah,
Can you just go like down the same question?
this part C.
No, no, I mean this question 3.
Question 3. Mhm.
Oh, this one for the amortization.
Yeah,
Did not have the opted for debt
that one, you remember how we did the calculation?
a nice making wanted the machine says did not have the opted for debt.
Yeah.
There was something I'd seen it, but I don't remember it.
Mm.
Okay, I think we can proceed. When I get my book to the house, I can ask maybe.
Okay. No problem.
But I
Mhm.
remember because I remember
Yeah.
how we did. There was
Yeah.
there's the
You
principal
create
amount. Yeah.
yeah.
So there's principal amount. There's
Mhm.
interest. There's interest. There's the
Yeah.
balance, and then
Yeah.
there's this 5,000 is the what is
Installment.
installment. Yeah. There was
Yeah. This you create a column for period, installment, and then principal and interest. So you from the installment we calculate interest, we subtract interest from the installment, then whatever remains now take care of the principal. Then this following period will now subtract the whatever amount we had paid from principal from the initial amount that we had borrowed to get the accumulated.
so at the end of the at the last period, if the amount is low, the balance
Yeah.
is below. We added the balance with was it with the principal,
Hmm.
and then we get the installment
Yeah. Now for
when
the
we were
last period,
collecting. Yeah.
for the last period, if the installment you are paying is higher than the remaining loan balance, and then now
Yeah.
you for that period you'll only pay equivalent to the loan balance. You'll not pay the full installment.
And that was we
Yeah.
added the balance with to get.
Just a minute. I see if I can. Okay, I'm using a different machine. I know I don't have that particular working,
Yeah.
but let's try and see if I can share this working.
Oh, Abraham is waiting.
Yeah, Abraham.
He is waiting to get in.
So let me allow him in. Mm. That's why I want to see if it's coming up. Welcome, Abraham. No. Just a minute. I'm sharing, but it's not yet displaying.
Yeah. Abraham is on waiting.
I allowed him in. I've also admitted Joyce. Okay, the Word document I'm using today is not able to type. So, okay, what we had created was, Rebecca, can you mute one of your gadgets? So what we had prepared was a table, though I'm not able to display it. And since there's a recording, we will still refer to it. I'll try to upload it on YouTube. So we create a table, and on that table, the first column, you indicate the period. The second column, you indicate the installment. And then the third column, you indicate the interest. The fourth column, you indicate the principal. Then the fifth column, you indicate the balance. Try to open Excel. I see if it will allow us to type so that I do it practically. No, still it can't. It can't. The machine I'm using, the license expired, I believe. That's why it's not able to allow us edit. I can only view. So we'll progress, and I'll try to get you the what we had done. Now question 3. SACCO form an important part of capital market for a growing business. Yet many SACCO in Kenya have wound up okay, yet many SACCO in Kenya have wound up. Okay. There's an echo. Rebecca, do you have two gadgets which are on? Okay.
Yeah, only one which is like I've muted the other one.
Oh, so when you put them,
It's this one.
we get echo.
Abram is still trying. Not sure what's the problem with this gadget.
I've allowed him in.
Finally joined. How are
Okay,
you?
welcome, Abraham.
Thank you. I have been trying, but
Yeah,
how are you?
I'm very fine. We have been waiting for you.
Thank you.
We have just been around with Rebecca alone.
Sorry, I've been trying since the link came in. I don't know
Mm,
what was happening, but now I'm
mm.
in. Thanks.
Okay,
Yeah.
welcome. So before you came in, we were just recapping what we had discussed last week. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and we were recapping now on question 3, and SACCO form an important part of capital markets for growing business. Yet many SACCO in Kenya have wound up. Members have therefore lost millions of shillings from their saving. Highlight 8 reasons why SACCOs fail in Kenya. So Abraham, you can give us at least 4 reasons to welcome you in class. And then Rebecca will give us the other 4.
Reasons why cooperatives fail in Kenya.
Yes.
Yeah. The first reason is because there is inequality uh,
Yeah.
and nepotism.
Mm-hmm. Another.
Another one is because they don't have the right technology. They're using manual system, so they are not able to cope up with the current trend in technology. So that makes them to not cope up with the banks who use the current systems to help manage their funds and
Yeah.
and put transactions with customers.
Mm-hmm. The third one.
The third point, there is money laundering,
Mm-hmm.
whereby one can borrow money, and since the corporates don't have many restrictions like the banks, so they can get the money and then invest in the cooperatives.
Yeah. So we can allow Rebecca also to give us some few points just, and then we move on.
Too many circles.
Mm-hmm.
There are many circles existing,
Yeah.
and
That
there's
means there's a lot of
mismanagement.
competition.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's mismanagement by the management.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's illiteracy also.
Yeah. There's literacy. Most of members of the SACCO are not informed.
There's lack of use of innovative solutions or improvements to their operations.
Yeah. So I can also add you one more. The control within SACCO is not as stringent as the control within the financial, the mainstream financial sector, that's in banking. For instance, in the bank, today, if you are to go to a bank to withdraw 1 million shillings, I'm sure you will be kept in the banking hall waiting for approval from central bank just because of the controls that are there. Just a minute. Sorry, I got disrupted. Somebody disrupted my connection. So, saying that the controls that we experience in commercial banks is not experienced in SACCOs. And I was giving an example that within the commercial bank, if today you go to withdraw a certain amount of money, the bank will interrogate you thoroughly before they can allow you to withdraw such money. But within the SACCO, we don't have that. You can also, the other area, if you are listed, for instance, on a credit reference bureau, you cannot borrow from commercial banks, but you still be allowed to borrow within the SACCO. So that means they allow those people who don't have good credit standing, who cannot get money from commercial banks to go and get money from SACCO. That means their exposure within the SACCO sector is high. Yeah, so we can move on to the next one. Next one was computation, but now because I can't do any typing, but we had done that question, so we'll not be able to do that. Question 4. Question 4.
Maybe the only thing.
Yeah, the only thing, yes.
The only thing that was new was about the salvage value, which is under project X. So we need to consider it when we are getting the ARR. What is it called?
No, the salvage value, when you are calculating net present value, you add it to the last amount we received for the last year. So it also constitutes part of the cash flow for the last year.
Oh yeah. And what was the reason why we were adding that?
Okay, we were adding, and I've said it's part of the cash that we receive. And I give you an example. If you bought a car to run as some taxi, so after a certain period of time, that particular car will, you'll reach a point you'll sell it as a scrap. So there's money that you'll have gotten from the operation of that taxi for that year. Then there's also money that you'll get from the sale of that particular car as a scrap. So that's what is referred as a salvage value. That's why you are adding.
Oh, thanks.
Welcome. Then now when you are calculating accounting rate of return, you use that salvage value to get average investment, where you'll add the initial investment and the salvage value, then you divide by 2 to get average investment.
Oh, thanks.
So we move on now to question 4. So let us see if I can expand. So question 4, Nahulo Food Limited is a chain is a chain of food restaurants within Nairobi, a central business district. It buys goods and capital items. Its procurement department is headed by Mrs. Anastasia Adhi. And supplier pre-qualification is carried out after every 2 years. Each supplier is requested to provide its financial statement for the past 3 years. One of the potential supplier has provided the following data. So there's this particular information for 2014, 2015, and 2016. Let's look at the expected, what we are expected to do. So what we are expected to do is calculate the current ratio. So to calculate the current ratio, we do current assets divided by the current liabilities. Current assets divided by the current liabilities. We have here current assets, we have current liabilities. So we can do it from year 2014. Our current assets, have you seen the total current assets for 2014?
Yes.
How much?
10 million.
10 million. Current liabilities, have you seen?
Yes.
How much?
3.4.
Yes. So now divide 10 million by 3.4.
$2.9.
2.9. So you can also be asked to do the interpretation of that information. So that means that our current assets are 2.9 times our current liabilities. That if we were to close down that particular business, then we will be able to comfortably pay off the current liabilities by liquidating our current assets. Then number 2.
Pardon?
Yes.
Sorry. Can you
I repeat. So this is what I said about current assets. We divide our current liabilities, or rather current assets, divided by current liabilities. So the answer you get will be a ratio. And this ratio, it signifies how many times our current assets are able to cover our current liabilities. If you calculate and you get the current ratio less than 1, then it means that our current liabilities are higher than current assets, which is a dangerous part. So for the first year, that's 2014, our current ratio is 2.4, and that means that our current assets is 2.4 times our current liabilities. So let's do for 2015. For 2015, have you seen the total current assets?
Yeah.
Divided by total current liability. What's the response? Abraham, your question? Yeah?
2.5.
2.5, yeah. So that means that our current assets is 2.5 higher than our current liabilities. So you calculate for 2016.
Uh, 1.66.
1.67.
1.67. Yeah.
Yeah, so that means that now our current asset keeps on reducing from the year 2014 to 2016. Our current asset has been reducing. Now let's look at the second one. It's acid test ratio. Acid test ratio. So we do current assets minus cash divided by current liabilities. We can do for 2014. Our current asset is 10 million minus cash, which is 2 million. Then divided by current liability, which is 3.4 million.
That is 2.35.
Yeah, so now that's the acid test ratio. You can do for the next 2 years.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
You have said you minus cash at hand, the
Just a
total
minute.
liability.
Rebecca kindly mute. Rebecca kindly mute if you are not talking because there's an echo from your side. Abraham, go ahead.
I was asking,
Yeah.
on the second part, you have said the cash at hand minus the total liability.
No, the current assets minus cash, then divided by current liabilities.
That's 10,000 minus 2 that's 10 million minus 2 million, and then
Yeah.
divide by 3.4.
Yeah.
Sawa.
Awesome.
2.21.
2.1. Okay. And for the last year, sorry. So we got less stock, huh?
1.4.
Not cash. Just a
Sorry?
minute correction. We got less stock, not cash. So it's 10 million minus stock, which is 5 million, and then we divide by 3.4. What have you gotten?
7.
Yeah. So you can do for the other. Let's check on net profit ratio. So for net profit ratio, we get net profit after tax we divide by sales.
Rebecca, kindly mute.
Net profit ratio.
Okay, so I said net profit ratio is equals net profit after tax divided by sales. Net profit after tax divided by sales. So I can go back to the question. Have net profit so now from the question we don't have net profit but we have gross profit. So now for us to get net profit is gross profit minus expenses. Gross profit minus expenses. So because we have gross profit, then we have operation costs. So operation costs are the expenses. So for us to get net profit, for instance, for 2014, it will be 24,500,000 minus 10,500,000 to get net profit.
$14 million.
14 million. And then let's check if we have information tax. We have information tax is 1.4 million. So from 14 million, subtract 1.4 million.
Sorry, we deduct 14 million from?
From 14 million, we deduct tax.
Oh, so then that is 0, right?
No, tax is 1.4 million.
Yeah.
I've highlighted 1.4. So 14 million minus 1.4 million. Now the figure you get, you divide it by 70 million, which is the sales. What figure have you gotten?
0.18
Yeah. So that means of 0.18 is equivalent to 18%. Okay, Rebecca, I will request you, there's a gadget which you can put sound 0 so that there's no echo when you are on mute. You have two gadgets and they have full sound. That's why there's an echo. Now, so we said that that's equivalent to 18%. Our profitability is at 18% for year 2014. Let's look at the year 2015. So our profit for 2015 is 25 million and cost is 13.5 million. So subtract that, and then we'll also subtract the tax. Tax is 1.1 million. So that's equivalent to saying 25 million minus 14.6 million. Abraham, which figure have you gotten? Rebecca, what's the answer?
Um, 3.059.
It can't be that high. Because, okay, 25 million minus 14.6 million. How much do you get?
10.4.
10.4. So now 10.4 divided by 65 million. 10.4 million divided by 65 million.
Why 65 million?
We said for us to get profitability, net profit ratio, we
Or
get
sales?
net
Sorry.
profit divided by sales.
Sorry. So it's 0.16.
0.16.
Yeah.
So that's equivalent to 16%.
Yeah.
So our profitability for that year is 16%. You can do for year 2016.
Yeah.
Tax for 2016 is 1.1 million. That means 24,100,000 minus 13,600,000. Then the answer you get divided it by 60 million.
17.
17%.
Yeah.
So we move on to the next question. Analyze the financial position of Lego Limited as a potential supplier. Now, when you're talking about financial position, okay, you have heard of balance sheet equation? I know
Yeah.
you have. Yes, what's the formula for balance sheet equation?
Assets equals to liabilities.
You have skipped one thing. Though you are on the right track, asset is equals
Total assets equals to total liabilities.
no. Asset is equal to capital plus liability. Asset is equal to capital plus liability. So that's what we are required to do the analysis, do the comparison, and see if the asset of this particular company is equivalent to as a capital plus liability. So let's go back to the numbers. Now, for us to get the capital, you see the figures which are written here, financed by. No, those figures that's what is representing capital. So now still under financed by under financed by will get the total, but we have long-term loans, which is part of liability. So for instance, for 2014, we have 20 million, which is ordinary share. We have 6 million, which is a profit reserve. Then we have 600,000, which is which is 600,000, which is long-term loans. So in that case, the total capital for 2014 is 26,600,000. And the formula have been told capital is equal, asset is equal to capital plus liability. So now our capital plus liability is 26 million. So let's go and look at our assets, if it's equivalent to 26,600,000.
Yes, it
Now,
is.
yeah, you had a question, Rebecca?
Oh no, I've seen the net asset is 26,600 for 2014.
Yeah. So in that case, it's equivalent to
Yeah.
our current, our capital plus liability. So we can look for 2015.
It's equivalent.
It's equivalent. Do the last one for 2016. Yes, sir. So that's what you have stated
It's also equivalent.
for that question.
It's also equivalent.
Come up, Abraham. Abraham, you had an issue?
I'm saying that the net asset is equivalent to
I
the
think he was
capital plus.
saying that
I'm saying that the net asset. I'm saying The last question, the net asset is equal
plus
to the
liability.
capital plus
Yeah,
liability. Sorry, yeah.
it's equivalent. Yeah, plus liability. So thank you. Yeah. So in that case, it means that this particular business is perfect because it has its assets. Okay, its assets and the capital and liability meet the balance sheet equation. So we move on to part C. Propose the 3 causes of foreign exchange rate fluctuation that may affect imports. Who's giving us the first reason? We discussed that in the previous class. Who's giving us the first reason?
Is it changes with the administration, new administrations, and is it?
So you are talking about political factors. Those are political factors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in event we vote in a new government, there is likely to be fluctuation on the stock market. Either the confidence level will be very high or confidence level will be very low. So if the confidence level will be very high, then the currency will gain. If the confidence level will be very low, then because most investors will be running away, in that case, the value of our currency will deteriorate. Another reason, Abraham? Another reason, Abraham?
Sometimes there is high demand for a certain currency, which makes it to gain more, to be bought more. So in such a scenario, that currency gains, its fluctuation is high.
Yeah. So demand for currency. If there's a season when we conduct high imports, then the demand for foreign currency is high because you have to pay for those imports. And then it means that the cost is likely to go up. But when there's the reduction in the importation, for instance, when you are receiving more money coming from outside, let's say from our relatives, friends who are working abroad, they are sending us more money, or they are sending money more than what we are importing, then the demand for foreign currency will go down. In that case, the value of the foreign currency will also go down. Another reason that can fluctuate, can cause fluctuation.
Political instability can cause a currency to fluctuate. For example, like in Zimbabwe, its
Yeah.
currency lost its value because
Mhm.
of political situation in Zimbabwe.
Yeah. But now what happened in Zimbabwe, it was not just political situation, it was a fiscal policy. Fiscal policy that in Zimbabwe, when there was a deficit of money, the president made an order, or they created a policy to print more money. So in that case, that money lost value because they were printing more money. It wasn't because of political instability. But you can also compare now a country that has a instability like Somalia, then their currency will always be very low, because now in that case there's little demand for their currency, but there will be high demand for foreign currency. If you have money within the Somalia, even those who are staying there, they will prefer to have those money with the dollars, in dollar currency, so that in case of anything, they can fly out of the country for their security. So there will be high demand for foreign currency, than local currency. So in that case, the prices will go up. Yeah. Another reason. The other reason can also be direct action by central bank. Direct action by central bank. For instance, in case there's the local currency, when it loses value, then it means that locals will spend more money in Kenya shillings, especially if they are doing imports. And because we rely on most commodities which are importing, like oil, that means if the importers of oil will spend more Kenya shillings, then it means that the price of oil will automatically be high. And the price, if it's higher than what citizens can pay, then it will slow down the growth of the nation. So central government or central bank can take direct action. And by taking direct action, that means they can introduce more foreign currency. For instance, if there's high demand for US dollar, and that's pushing the US dollar to the rate to go up, the central government can borrow US dollar from, let's say, IMF or World Bank. In that case, they will float more US dollars on the market. In that case, the supply of the US dollar will automatically reduce the price or the cost of US dollar. So plus others, those are some of the reasons that do fluctuate. The others, we can also control importation. The government can also control importation. For example, government can formulate a policy and say, if you are going to import a motor vehicle which is assembled outside the country, the tax will be higher. But if you buy a locally assembled motor vehicle, the taxes will be lower. So in that case, those taxes are deterring you, or they're deterring you from importing a vehicle, so that you are able to buy the local made vehicle. Yes. So in that case, it also reduce the pressure. The demand for foreign currency will reduce. In that case, the prices is also likely to stabilize or reduce. Let's look at the next part. Explain 5 functions of commercial banks. Explain 5 functions of commercial banks. Rebecca had asked about this question. I've seen it had saved, but I'll show you. Let's finish up, and then I share with you the same. The first function of commercial banks.
Source of capital.
Offers loan.
It offers loan. So in that case, it becomes a source of capital. Another reason? Another function. What else does commercial bank do?
Offers services for transactions to pay transaction between businesses. So one business can pay through a bank and pay another business when doing purchasing or supply.
Yes, they facilitate payments of goods and services. So in that case, you have given an example. A bank can give you a check, which you are able to facilitate that transaction, or you can also aid you when you want to make payment. You can do a transfer from your account to the buyers or sellers, and vice versa. Another function. Have you heard of security of safe lockers? Have you heard of the term safe lockers?
Not yet.
Yeah, so banks usually do have safe lockers where you can store your valuables. For example, if you have gold ornaments, it will not be safe for you to keep gold ornaments in your house because they are valuable and anybody can easily disappear with them. So you can go and open a safe locker in a bank where you can store those valuables. You can also store there some of the documents which are critical. For example, if you have your title deeds, you have your certificates, you can still store them in safe lockers. So that's also a function of commercial banks. Another function, they link. Rebecca, you want to say something?
Okay, like they also act as a saving avenue for individuals.
Yes, very well. They also provide an avenue, and that's what was to say. They link between those who have surplus and those who have deficit. Now, having surplus, it means you have an extra shilling or an extra amount of money. So the banks will link you to somebody who has a deficit. For instance, if you had 5,000 shillings that you don't intend to use it now, you're going to deposit that money in a bank account. Then there could be somebody who require only 1,000 shillings. So he'll go and borrow that 1,000 shillings and use. So the bank will have gotten money from you who has a surplus and will have given to somebody who has a deficit. Another function.
How about
Yes.
an intermediary between the CBK and the normal citizen? Like their services, instead of a citizen going to the CBK, then the bank can offer those services because they are controlled by the CBK.
Yeah. So, but now basically, because as a citizen, you cannot open directly a bank from central bank. Now they are the same or services that central bank is offering, for instance, to the government, is now the services for us as citizens we can get from commercial banks. So another function that they still do offer, they offer bank guarantees. Now, because you are doing procurement, if somebody wants to get let's say, to bid, he has to get a bid bond. That bid bond, you get it from commercial banks. Now, once you have won a tender and you are expected to perform, then you are also expected to get a performance bond. Those performance bonds are also gotten from the bank. Those are guarantees that the bank is giving a customer. That's a surety that you are able to perform, or you have capacity to do that particular, to provide that particular service. So those are functions of commercial banks. Another, they also operate bank accounts. So you can open bank account, and you've talked about savings and you've talked about loans. So those are two. Then commercial banks also provide, okay, we have talked about safe custody, but they also act as a custodian. Now, when you're talking about custodian, for instance, if you want to buy shares, you can buy the shares through central commercial banks. If you want to buy shares from for the companies that are trading on Nairobi Security Exchange, you can buy those shares through central commercial banks rather. So they are acting as a custodian. Plus many others. We can look at the last question.
Do they also offer financial advices?
Yes, they also do offer financial advices. For instance, if you want to borrow money from a bank, before they lend you, they'll first of all advise you to see if you can get facilitation from any other source rather than getting a bank loan. They'll not give you a bank loan as a first priority. So in that case, they are all giving you advice. And also they'll advise you about cost, so that by the time you're taking loan, you are sure that your business is able to pay the cost of the loans you are going to get. Is there another you have encountered before we discuss the last question? If there's none, let's look at question number 6. Number D. Describe 6 long-term sources of finance available to Lego Limited for buying capital equipment. So mention the ones you know, then I'll also add you others. So who is mentioning the first one? We discussed those sources of capital
Get
when
a
we were
loan from a
discussing
bank.
cost of capital. Yes, very well. Loan from a bank. Another source. Another long-term source.
They can sell their shares so that to raise some capital. Part of
Yes,
their shares to raise capital.
yes, they can sell ordinary share capital. Now with the share there are two. We have ordinary share capital. Then we also have preference share capital. So they can sell ordinary share capital to raise additional capital. They can also sell preference share capital. The third one, they can sell debenture. Debenture, and we said debenture is borrowing from the citizens. Debenture is borrowing from citizens. So rather than just going to a commercial bank to borrow a bank loan, they can as well borrow, but now in this case they are borrowing from the citizens directly.
Can they borrow from maybe say a cooperative, or that's just the same point?
Okay, now for basically for me, for limited company, because this is a limited company, it may not necessarily go and borrow from a cooperative or from a SACCO. SACCO is only available for individuals, not companies. So,
Thank you for clarification.
okay, welcome. So now we have mentioned ordinary share capital. Oh, Rebecca, you want to say something?
Retain earnings.
Very well. Retain earnings. So from part of the profit they make, they can retain part of it, and it will be source of capital. So we have so far mentioned retain earnings, we have mentioned ordinary share capital, we have mentioned preference share capital, we have mentioned debenture, we have mentioned bank loan. Then the sixth one we can mention is lease. Lease. So when you talk of lease, for instance, if we wanted to buy, because they are talking about buying an equipment, capital equipment, we can go and lease that equipment instead of buying it. For instance, if we were to buy a machine, instead of buying machine, like now what government did with the health sector, instead of buying those machines, they went and leased those machines. We will be paying some small fees for it, but we are having those machines, we can use them. So that's also source of capital. Then there's also hire purchase. Hire purchase. And hire purchase, that means we are hiring this machine with the intention to purchase. So every month or after a certain period, we'll be paying part of the money, or we'll be paying money, and this money is referred as hiring charges, until when you pay the last installment, then now the ownership of that machine will be transferred to us. If we don't pay to the last installment, then the supplier of that machine can come and repossess the machine. And when he repossesses, the amount of money we have paid to him will be considered as hiring charges. Just for example, if you go and hire, let's say the company wants to buy a truck, tipper, how much can it cost? How much does a truck cost, a tipper?
Maybe 2 million or 2.5.
80 million.
8 million. Precisely, it's about 8 million. 2.5 in pesa ya car. So now, if it's 8 million, and we agree that we'll be paying 1 million per month until we clear, let's say for 1 year, we'll be paying 1 million per month. So when we pay for the 7 months, or let's say for 10 months, and we fail to pay for the last 2 months, then the company will come and repossess the vehicle. Once they repossess the vehicle, we cannot pay the remaining amount. So they'll consider the amount of money we'll have paid as a hiring charges. So they'll repair the machine, the vehicle, and return to the market for resale. So that's another source of a long-term source. So we can preview this question. We had discussed it before, Abraham, you joined. Okay, it's what we did last week, but we had discussed it before you joined. We are refreshing on it. And Rebecca, you can recall, we create this table. The first part is period. The second part is installment, how much is being paid. Then the third part is interest that is charged. Then the last part is the principal. The principal, then the balance. Now, for the last period, that's where you had a question. You can check on period 7. Period 7, the balance that this particular borrower had was 400 and was 396. Now, from 396, we add the interest. So once we add the interest, it translates to 439, 435, 435, 435 shillings. So now the installment that this particular person will pay is only 435 shillings. He doesn't have to pay 5,000 because you'll have overpaid the loan. So you only pay what's remaining, what's due for him to clear the loan. That clear, Rebecca?
Yes, thank you.
Welcome. It's almost 9. When are you starting your exam?
15th.
That's after next week.
Not really.
Huh?
It is next
Oh,
week.
next week. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Okay. So now you can revise the other questions in case you get a concern or area where you need clarification. You can reach out so that you can clarify before you get to that exam. So I take the opportunity to wish you success in your exam. I believe whatever we have discussed is mostly what will come, and you'll be able to respond to the questions.
Thank you for your help also.
Welcome. So I'll try to get you the link for the recordings by tomorrow evening so that you can use them for your revision. So have a wonderful evening.
Thank you too.